Okay, we're ready. Chris is fully hydrated, so we're gonna go. It's the post-fight podcast. It's Nick Atkin and Chris Edwards Bailey in Hong Kong, and thank you. The PFL finished right on time. We set a start time of 12 midday over here, and it's finished just bang on time. Kayla Harrison just won her second PFL title back to back, I do believe. It's been a really interesting card there. We're going to recap all of the PFL drama, some awesome fights there. But we're also going to preview UFC 267. And but first, Chris, you and I just wanted to discuss this bombshell news from last night. One championship has postponed the 10th anniversary card, December 5th. 1X, which was going to feature Demetrius Johnson against Rod Tang. Two title fights, Tan Lei and Gary Tonin. Bibiano against John Lineker. Postponed. No idea when it's going to be. Well, what is your reaction, Chris? I'm going to come to you first. Well, I've got to come to you first. You're the only one here.
That's it. This piece of news is just absolutely devastating for any fight fans. It's absolutely devastating for fans of one championship. I mean, this has been the story of probably the last 18 months, maybe a year and 3/4 now, of every little bit of hope. We have cancellations, we have knockbacks. We're just not really getting the push forward we need. We came back with a bit of a bang with Inside the Matrix. Then it all closed down a bit, and then we came back with TNT. We had another shutdown. I think we had something similar with Dangal. It started to get going again in the summer, a little bit of a shutdown there, and we were finally starting to get going. The Grand Prix had finally got underway. It had been postponed nearly a year, and then the anniversary show, which really should have been, I believe, last month. If they wanted the exact 10-year anniversary, it already technically been pushed back 3 months anyway, 4 months. And to see it pushed back, they keep saying early 2022. So we're talking another 3 or 4 months, and it's just terrible. It's terrible for the organisation, but I do believe they will be able to pull through, but just absolutely devastating. Devastating to see, particularly the Leon Tonin fight that we've been waiting for so long. The return of Bibiano Fernandez. I mean, this guy has been on ice, over 2 years now, so can't be any good for them, and it's just absolutely devastating. And the more I think about it, someone said to me on Twitter, do you think that Rod Tang versus DJ fight will actually ever happen now?
Oh, you're asking me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
They put a lot of hype behind it and PR, and I think they were really marketing that fight. It seemed to cause a bit of a splash in the US market, which is what they want. They were getting a lot of coverage from some of the sites that don't normally get, such as MMA Fighting Junkie, that kind of thing. I think it will happen. Yes. I tell you what, I will ask you another question about it. So I'm just going to bring up Chatri's Facebook post about it. So where is it? Here you go. Yeah, he posted this last night, literally as soon as I left the office. I think this breaking news happened, and I had already been working for about 12 hours, so I couldn't bring myself to cover it. But I think Ariel Helwani broke the news, but Chatri soon posted saying, yeah, due to the record high viral outbreak in Singapore, 1X will now take place early next year. Yada, yada, yada. It's a tricky time for everyone in Singapore, but I'm confident we will get through these tough times. Yada, yada, yada. And then he says something. I mean, what kind of piqued my interest, Chris, is he said, we want to do it with a full stadium as well.
Oh, wow.
Did he say that in this post? I definitely saw it somewhere. Yeah. So do you think it actually could get to a point in January where they'll be able to have not just their usual 250 fans or whatever is at Singapore Indoor Stadium, but a full stadium? I don't see that being possible.
I don't see that being possible probably until the second quarter. I don't see that happening until probably April, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. It's a huge blow, definitely, because I think you've got one next gen on Friday, tomorrow even. So after that's going to be the last live show, I do believe, until 2022, because I think they're going to have 2 pre-taped cards in November, which they're recording some of them tomorrow, and they recorded some earlier this month at the First Strike card. And then what they're going to do in December now, got no clue. They did they have one scheduled for later in December, I think, as
Yeah,
well?
they did have one scheduled as well. Was it New Year's Eve? I believe it was New Year's Eve. They had one scheduled for. So it is really tough to say. I just checked the calendar for the Rugby Sevens very quickly. They are still bound to have the Rugby Sevens in Singapore on the 9th and 10th of April, but Hong Kong says it's having it the week before. I don't know if that's going to happen here. I know in Singapore they have been wanting to open up, but I guess that is some sort of indication that they haven't cancelled that event yet. So they do see somewhere between now and April them being able to hold a mass event with a full stadium.
You know, I think I put it on Twitter. This is all my fault, Chris. I jinxed it when I asked Gary. Yeah, I might actually show that tweet I did, but yes. So got a retweet off Tarnley, so at least he can see the funny side in it. Hang on, I'm just gonna share it now, but they confided in you and said it's happening.
Don't do it to me.
Jinxed it. Sorry.
Yeah, like obviously.
I think I missed the beginning. Here you go.
The rise again in Singapore of COVID cases. Tan, are you worried, guys, that this could be derailed again? Or have they confided in you and said it's happening?
Don't do it to me.
Yeah. Oh, my fault. Tan did graciously retweet. But I feel so bad for them, man.
Can I just bring up
these
one
guys,
very quick
comment?
And it does make a little bit of sense what D Brown is saying here. Like, is it starting to get to that point? I know we talked about it a few weeks ago where we were kind of lamenting how one championship doesn't have like some sort of fight island, some sort of real bubble, because their bubble just can't ever seem to really get going in the same way that they can in Fight Island. They seem to give the fighters a lot more restrictions. There's a lot more quarantine. Is it time for one championship now after what is becoming nearly, it's going to be 2 years of disruption when we get there? Is it time to start thinking about them moving sticks for, even if they just need to film a few shows and go to somewhere like the US where Lee and Tonin are both based, where Lineker and Bibiano is just over the border in Vancouver?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was speaking to someone last night about this, and we were both saying they could go pick up sticks and go put on shows in America tomorrow if they wanted to, but that would mean they have to have things like drug testing, I think, and they have to agree to commissions. Is that right? So they obviously have their own things they want to do. Rule set, is hard to get approved, and Rich Franklin also told me he doesn't think it's going to happen till the end of the year, the first US show, like so quarter 3 or 4, 2022. So obviously there are some hurdles in the way.
I mean, they could get a commission because Denver have passed the rules, right? Colorado, the state of Colorado's passed it. I mean, they could let the commission do the drug testing, which is not the highest level of drug testing, but it's something, and they'd probably pass the fights. My just idea is getting a small little arena, even if it's got no fans, and putting on live shows is going to be better than pre-taped leftover fights. And particularly, it's just good to move on the divisions. And you can't do that in Singapore. Singapore aren't going to let them do shows with no crowd because they just don't want people flying in. And that's the one reason I just think, they need some sort of solution, in my opinion.
Yes, maybe Chadri can buy a small island in Thailand or Philippines, I don't know. And I'm sure they've looked at it, haven't they?
Yeah, 100%, man. But you just look at some people like Gary Tonin, and who's very early in his career, but he's done fantastic. But he's missed out on a whole lot of opportunities to fight. You've got absolute legends like Eddie Alvarez, Demetrius Johnson, Ong La, who are all over the age of 35. And we want to get these guys fighting so we can get the best out of them in their best years. And we want to keep developing talent that's coming to one championship to fight, and also the talent that's in the region. And it is just a huge stumbling block, right? Like right now, if you were any 21-year-old, 22 years old, even 23 years old, why would you sign with one championship now when they just can't put on shows, when you can go to somewhere like the PFL, like the UFC, Cage Warriors, or all these other organizations that are putting on shows, and now those countries are open, and it's going to be like this for the next 6 to 9 months.
That's a very good point. I did try to get Chatri on the show. Well, I asked if he wanted to do an interview. He kind of no-sold it, and just we had a bit of texting back and forth. He was very upset, I think, about all this. So I did want to put these questions to him. Maybe sometime soon I can. If he's on the press conference after the fights tomorrow, maybe I can throw out a few questions. I'm sure we'll get some clarity. But yeah, it's just a pretty sucky time overall for them. I feel very sorry. They've worked very hard to put on some shows despite the hurdles they've done. As I said, feel super bad for Tanley and Gary Tone in this fight. It's been on and off for over a year now, I think, or nearly. Yeah. And Bibiano was finally about to come back. He's now gone past 2 years already since he's been out of the cage, and it's gonna be, who knows, 2.5 years maybe before he gets back in there. And it's a sucky situation for everyone involved.
Next gen 2 and 3 are still good to go, and they will be pre-tape cards. And then X is cancelled. Are they still going to do Winter Wonderland and the year? I think it is called Winter Wonderland or something like that. Winter Warriors.
Okay. They should rename it Winter Wonderland, I think. Much better. Yeah. I don't know. I could see them maybe trying to stretch it out and have 3 pre-tape cards now, and maybe just having sort of 4 fights on each one, because there's going to be a big gap between the end of November and the end of December then. And they've got to keep pumping out content. They need people to keep talking about them. They need the journos like myself to we have to have fights to discuss. It's really hard, and it's not their fault, but it's difficult to cover an organization when you're not putting on fights. And I think that's the one thing the UFC just does very well. They're always just putting on cards every other week, it seems like, or almost every week.
That's it. So, you do look at the UFC when they came back after their pandemics and anything, they've always come back with a bang with their biggest stars front and center. And I think sometimes that's the problem that we see a little bit here with One Championship, is that we end up with a fairly good card followed by 1 or 2 cards that are quite not up to standard just because it's pre-taped and not ideally what we want. And I just want to see the bigger stars fighting each other, particularly a lot of these guys who are very close to the end of their careers, who've only managed to fight once in the last 2 years, like Bibiano, like DJ, like Eddie. Just all of a bit of a mess, really, but it's hard to really find a solution.
Yeah, hard to find a solution, and I'm sure we'll discuss it a little bit more tomorrow on the fight companion for One Next Gen, which I don't know if you'll be joining, Chris, but you are.
I will be there.
Okay. Maybe change the shirt though, something a little less disgusting. Yeah,
just celebrating after Sunday night, so gotta enjoy the moments.
Nah. We don't talk about this. Is an MMA show, not a soccer show.
Yeah, that's it. There's not really any fights this tonight or even on last Sunday, or I think on this coming weekend that will be as one-sided, hopefully. So
whatever. I don't care about football anymore. Just MMA. All right. Well, yeah. Let's talk about the PFL then, because PFL Championship night, that was a really fun card. I missed the undercard, but Chris, you watched the whole thing, and I kind of caught most of the title fights in Claressa Shields, and enjoyed what I saw. I guess we start at the very top with let's do it. Kayla Harrison, baby. She submits Taylor Guardado the second round with the trademark armbar. I think everyone saw this coming, Chris. Minus 6,250. The odds says it all. I went for KO TKO, so I lost my points there on Fanatics. But you didn't pick a method of finish, so you got all the points. But
yeah, because
I think we all knew she's going to win.
She's so dominant. It's so hard to make a decision when it comes with Kayla Harrison, because she is just as likely to sub someone as she is to KO someone nowadays. And she is just so dominant. You do find in this division, and the higher you go up with the women's divisions, we've always had very dominant champions like a Nunes, like a Cyborg, and Kayla even one weight class higher. She's just an absolute fantastic competitor. And you know what? Fantastic for a win, her second PFL win. She gets the $1 million. So that's absolutely fantastic for her. But I guess the big thing on everyone's lips is that was the final fight of her PFL contract. And what do you think the next move is, Nick?
I think just stay there and keep winning loads of money, loads of titles. I was seeing on Twitter, Tom Taylor was having a bit of back and forth with another MMA journalist. I can't remember who it was, with a quote from Ray Cooper, who we'll get to in a minute. But he said, I want to win 10 titles. I don't care about anything else. And why would you? I mean, if Ray Cooper went to the UFC, would he make $1 million? Maybe eventually, but not straight away. Certainly not for a long time. Why don't you just stay and I mean, he's got that. He's got a much more competitive division as well than Kayla Harrison, to be fair.
100%.
Yeah, I guess Kayla might want to challenge herself. I think I can see her staying one more year. You've got that Julio Bard fight. They've sort of lined up now, and
Megan Anderson still hasn't signed with anyone at the moment. So I mean, if they could get Megan Anderson and Julia Budd in, I think they'd be fantastic matchups for Megan Anderson is huge anyway, so she'd be perfect for the weight class. And I do think Kayla Harrison is maybe. I wouldn't rush anything. I'd enjoy a bit of your money. I'd take back and see, because I do think she's such a competitor. She's the US's most successful competitor in judo, the only person from the US to ever win 2 judo gold medals. So she's done it all. And I just think the competitor in her will be seeing, okay, who can we sign here in the PFL? I mean, look, she could go to the UFC, but I think that's probably a bad fit for her, because I don't think they're going to pay her what she wants, and I don't think they'll bend over backwards for her. There are good fights there for her, particularly Nunes, Jermaine Durandamy, and Holly Holm. I think would all be absolutely fantastic barn-burning fights for her, and they're all good sizes for her. Then the only other place I do think is I would definitely say Bellator would be fantastic, because I do think her versus Cyborg would be the biggest women's fight of the year, I think. I can't think of another women's fight that would probably be bigger. I think it's bigger than Nunes Shevchenko. I think it's bigger than Namajunas Zhang Weili.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if Dana White wants to sign her either. Or
No, I was saying for her to fight Cyborg over.
Yeah, no, I just mean talking about UFC. I'm not sure Dana wants to sign her either. So Bellator might be the option, because I think Dana said she should stay in PFL, but that might be less of a diss, more like, if they're going to pay you that, you should just take it.
Well, he always said he's never going to sign Ben Askren. He's done this all throughout his career, right? Never trust anything Dana White says. And let's be fair, a household name in America, a double Olympic champion judoka. She's got the amazing story of everything that's happened with her sister and her adopting her nephew and niece and becoming a mum. I mean, this stuff writes itself. The UFC could make a video package in about 1.5 hours, and it'll be absolutely fantastic. To think that no one within the UFC management is thinking, oh, he is a great, well-spoken, marketable star who's a great competitor. I mean, there must be some temptation there to sign her on some level, but I just don't see the UFC being the fit. I think PFL and Bellator is the most likely, because as we have seen with Bellator, they will give you favourable matchups, they will build you up, and they do look after their stars a touch more.
Yes. All right, a comment here from Thunder Fist Mook Beefcake, probably the best username of anyone who watches us. Thunderfist thinks her going to the UFC is the least likely outcome. Yeah, I would tend to agree. I wouldn't be surprised to see if she just stays in PFL. But all right, yes. If you haven't already, please go and download Fanatics Fantasy MMA app. The link is in the yellow ticker at the bottom screen. You go to Fanatics. Sorry, that's not it. It's getfanatics.app/SCMP. Make all your picks, and you can join our group. There's a nice growing community there now. And we have about 500 at least in our group, and there's thousands more people on the app, and you can make your own private leagues and groups with your friends. It's really fun.
Yeah, 100%. We have 560 members. We're the second biggest group on there. We are third now, actually. We recently got overtaken by Full Reptile. They have about 30 more than us, so we're going to try and take them back and take back that second place. So, Dan Hardy, we're coming for you.
Fuck Dan Hardy.
Yeah. That's it.
Right. No, Dan's a very nice guy. I saw he said he'd gonna box Tyron Woodley in March in the UK. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that, but I wasn't sure if that's 100%.
Yeah, who was he talking to? Was it the BT guys or what?
Yeah.
Can't remember. Let us know if you saw that in the comments. But anyway, yeah, let's go
Can't
through
see
these
that doing
championship
big
fights.
numbers, but yeah.
Yeah, it's neither guy's really box office, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe if it's on the undercard or something else. I don't know.
That's
But yeah, Ray Cooper the third, RC3, with spectacular third round knockout of Magomed Karimov. Maga Millions. Wow, didn't see this coming, Chris. This was an insane finish. Jesus, even LeBron James was tweeting about it. I didn't know LeBron was a PFL fan, but more power to him. But incredible finish. Ray Cooper gets that win back against Magomed, and he's a two-time champ as well, I believe. So that's just crazy,
Yeah.
Chris. What a finish!
Oh yeah, 100%. It's absolutely fantastic, fantastic fight. So back and forward. I think if I remember correctly, Ray Cooper came out, pretty much dominated the first. Magomed Karimov came out and dominated the second, used his wrestling, and then all of a sudden they just decided to let fists fly. Absolutely crazy. And Magomed had Ray Cooper the third absolutely shook a few times. He was getting him with knees. He had him very close to a guillotine, and then Ray Cooper got him back, rung his bell, and there was a bit of back and forward. And then Ray Cooper, I mean, pound for pound, right, got to be one of the hardest hitting welterweights out there right now. Absolutely fantastic. He's just grown and grown as a fighter through his time in the PFL, and he's really starting to put together a full game. And I mean, what is also great about this fight is you can see this is for the best welterweight in the PFL history in a way, because you have the 2018 champion Magomed Karimov and the 2019 and 2021 champion. To be 2021 champion, Ray Cooper III, facing off against each other, and I thought it was just absolutely fantastic. And this was probably my fight of the night.
It wasn't my fight of the night. I think I enjoyed Bruno and Ante. That was crazy, probably the craziest heavyweight fight I've ever seen. We'll get to that in a minute, but yes, this was very good. Very happy for Ray. He seems like a very nice guy as well, and very well liked by everyone else in the sport. So, do you see him ever leaving, Chris, PFL? Like I said, he seems to be content to just rack up these big paychecks and these belts.
If I remember correctly, I think he does have a few more fights on his contract. I think he has about 4 more. I see him staying. He says he just wants to keep racking up that $1 million every time. It is just, if you can keep winning these tournaments, it can make you very, very rich, very, very quick. And you know what? If you can't do it, you've always got next year to come back anyway. So that is the beauty of it all. I do know for some of his fights before in the past, I think he's got paid $150,000 or $125,000. I can't remember exactly. So he gets paid fairly well on top of the $1 million bonus as well. So I don't see any chance of either of them leaving. I think the PFL is a very good place, particularly Ray Cooper does always seem to say he likes the season format. He likes that it's very fast, very quick turnarounds, and then he's got a huge break now of about 4.5 months until the next event, which I think the off season is a little bit too long in my opinion, but I think they're still trying to find their best format.
Yeah, and there's still some good fights there for him as well. That they could potentially have a trilogy. These guys, Rory McDonald will want to have a better performance next year.
Gleason T-Bow.
Gleason,
yeah, that's it. So there's some absolutely fantastic talent out there. I think there's so many more good matchups. You could even do these two guys again in the group stage.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's keep going through these championship fights quickly. We'll do Claressa first. Yeah. So yes, Claressa Shields' first ever loss in any combat sports competition. The boxing GWOAT, as they say, losing a split decision to Abigail Montez. I do think that was harsh on Montez. I don't know why it was a split. But we worried that they were maybe going to screw the pooch here a little bit, Chris, and give it to Claressa to keep her win streak going in MMA?
I gave the first very clearly to Claressa. I think she started off well. I thought her wrestling around the cage was fantastic. But I think the second, even though it was fairly close, was very clearly Montez. And I think the third round was absolutely very obvious. I mean, that was the moment Montez won it. I mean, that was the moment, even if it was under, say, one championship where you judges a whole fight, that was probably the moment which would swing the whole fight. It was a fantastic performance by both fighters. And I think it was a fantastic performance by Claressa Shields. Her ground game has gotten much better. Her wrestling defense has gotten much better. I think she's a little bit more patient than she was in her first fight. And I still think she has a huge opportunity to go on, and I hope she keeps staying at it, because still at the age of 26, I think she has a lot to give. She says she doesn't plan to enter a PFL tournament until 2023. If I remember correctly, she signed a 6-fight deal when she signed with them correctly. Am I right there?
I don't know the exact figure, but
I think it was 6 fights. So hopefully, if she could get in 3 or 4 fights next year, I think she's just under a year in the sport. I think she's 11 months in the sport. So I think if she can get another 2 or 3 fights, that's when we can really see where she is, because, the amount of top fighters we do see who have in the first 5 or 6 fights who go 4-2, 5-1, it is the vast majority of fighters. And, she probably learned more in this single fight than she's ever learned before in her career.
yeah, Tan has a good comment there. Boxing's not a good base for MMA. I don't know who said it. There was someone on Twitter said, they'd like to see the PFL just give Claressa someone, straight out of Muay Thai or kickboxing, so we can see that boxing of hers. Do we want to keep seeing her doing wrestling? It's not.
Can I fire back at Tan? There is a
Yeah.
fighter actually from Siberia, I believe, who did boxing his whole career. I believe he went to the sports university in Siberia, and he is a master of boxing and is fighting for the UFC interim title this weekend. Peter Yannon, his base for MMA is boxing, and he seems to be doing all right.
Yeah, Peter Yan's a monster. I think he's a bit of an exception to the rule. But
yeah, but Peter Yan, Jorge Masvidal, there is a few guys out there who have built very, very good careers. You can even argue probably Conor McGregor is kind of on a boxing base, and there has been people who have been able to do it, and they can be absolutely fantastic in the pocket using boxing skills. So I wouldn't totally throw it away, but I think it just all depends where, if you come through a amateur boxing career like someone like Aaron Pico did, and then transitioned into MMA with a wrestling base, obviously for him, but transitions into MMA at 18, I think it's a very different way to do it. I mean, Claressa Shields is 26, I believe, so she started her transition at 25, so maybe a touch too late.
I will see what happens next for her. Do you think she could pack it all in and maybe think about quitting?
I don't think so. I think in boxing she still has a few big fights, but she's practically beaten everyone, and there's not really a big name unless she does a catchweight, maybe with a Katie Taylor would be the only huge fight for her out there. But I mean, look, I would say to anyone, watch the 2 people that Claressa Shields has fought, and this is the PFL building somewhat, and she's got 2 very hard outs and people who both had more fights than her. If you compare that to Valerie Luerda in Bellator or Dylan Dennis, she has fought a much higher level of opposition than both of them.
Okay. Well, why don't we do Bruno and Ante Delija? So I think that was actually the fight before Claressa. I think they've got the order wrong here. So let's go to there. This was a very fun fight, I thought. The first 2 rounds were insane. Just so back and forth. Bruno came out hot in the first round, and you thought he might actually finish. Delija, he whacked him with one huge shot that kind of gave Delija a hematoma, and then he was delivering a lot of ground and pound. I thought, Keith Peterson was going to step in. He didn't. Then Delija flipped it around, and he nearly finished Bruno. It looked like there was some submission attempts from both guys. Petered out a little bit over the final 3 rounds, but deserved win for the Brazilian Bruno Capoloza, right, Chris?
Yeah, definitely, man. What a fantastic fight. To tell you the truth, Bruno, absolutely fantastic fighter, looked good all the way through this tournament, but Ante has also performed very well. He performed absolutely fantastic in his win. And you know what? Just his connection to one of my favorite ever fighters of all time, Mirko Krokop. always had me just thinking there is a possibility. But you know what? I actually think in this fight, Bruno was a class above. I actually think on some level he got a little bit confident in there, and I think that's what actually led to him getting his bell rung. I think he dropped his fists a little bit, and I think he got carried away with his striking, because the one thing we can see in that fight definitely was the striking levels were very, very similar, but we saw a huge gap when it came to the ground game. Bruno was levels and levels above. I thought it was a fantastic performance. And I just think his personal backstory, him flying over from Brazil, his family keeping the death of his father a secret. His father passed away on Sunday night, and they kept it a secret from him so he could concentrate on this and have the best opportunity to get that $1 million back to his family in Brazil. Just absolutely fantastic. I hope he's doing well. I hope he feels good. I hope he can celebrate and enjoy the moment, because that's probably what his father would want, is for him to celebrate this and not for what's happened with him to cloud his day in any way. You know, he's finally won a world title in a big professional organization, and couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Everything I've seen with him, all of his interviews he's ever done, he's just one hell of a classy man.
Yeah, talk about the highs and lows, the agony, the ecstasy, going from the greatest night of your life to then being told your dad has died. It must be so tough for him to deal with. I don't know the backstory. Maybe his father was ill for a long time. I mean, he may have known in some way that could have happened. I'm sure his father told, if he was able to, maybe told the family, don't tell my son this.
Yeah.
I don't want him to be thinking about me. It'd be interesting to hear him speak at the press conference if they have one, or get an interview. You know, we got a few of our mates that are on the ground there, Chris, Drake and Amy 100%. And Tom Taylor. Sure, they'll be bringing you all the interviews you need from the PFL post-fight press conferences, so check them out. But we move on. Let's keep going. Let's go back to Movlid Khaybulaev and Chris Wade. Movlid getting the decision. Chris, he was the favorite. Any argument from you?
No, this was absolute dominant from start to end. One of the most dominant performances of the night. I think the judges all gave it, was it 250s and a 49? I had it all 5 rounds for the killer. You know, and it is strange when you do look through the fanatics on this one, between all of us, between all of SCMP MMA and all the users on the app. This was actually, of all the title fights, this was actually the most divided one, which does kind of say a lot. But it didn't go down that way. I expected it to be a little bit more similar, but I guess this is just what happens when you have two guys whose nickname is the Killer and the Long Island Killer, but there can only be one, right?
Can only be one killer.
Yeah,
cancel each other out.
That's it. I feel Chris Wade needs to get a new nickname because he lost to the Killer, right?
Absolutely. Anything else to say about this one, or do we want to keep going?
Just to say, Movlid, absolute beast, coming out of the Smash Factory, right? Good friends with Khabib. Talk about Khabib's dad and Khabib on the microphone and how what a job Khabib is doing, just continuing on the legacy. I mean, he's undefeated, another undefeated Dagestani guy with that beard. I mean, you just see the beard, right? And you see the O on the record, and you know this guy is going to do big, big things. And the one thing I went on to this is, do you think this year is going to be a bit too early to see Khabib get nominated for Coach of the Year in any sort of awards, or do you think next year will be the earliest?
Because
he's got a few guys who are getting good wins in the UFC. Yeah, undefeated.
Depends how much is he coaching. You know, is he more of just a sort of a presence on the side, or is he actually?
I think he's coaching. I think he's literally taking over his dad's role, from what I've heard. I mean, he's got champion now in PFL. I think, has he got one champion now in Bellator, right?
Who was
Ukrainian?
It? Yeah. Lima.
Yeah, and then you do look at it, and some of his guys are not that far away from getting it done in the UFC. We have people like Islam Makhachev in a huge fight to get into the top 5. He could be there this year for maybe a nomination, or definitely next year if things continue to go away. Because if you can have 2, 3, 4 champions in the PFL, in Bellator, in the UFC. It's got to be shown you can do it at almost every level.
Yeah, Dagestan and Russia is the best base for MMA, I think.
That is probably, that's the most sense you've said all night.
Yeah. All right then. What about old Shoeface? Yeah, Antonio Carlos Jr. Love this first round submission. Martin Hamlet, brilliant rear naked choke. Just jumped on his back and brought him down to the ground. Hamlet tapped immediately. ACJ getting that $1 million, Chris. Wonderful to see.
And it was fantastic. And you know what? It was nice to see. I don't know if you were watching it this time, Nick, or if you saw the big intro and the big piece they did with him and Buchecha and how they've been like pretty much brothers and they've got each other into jiu-jitsu and they got each other into MMA and they've been friends. And from what I heard, Antonio Carlos Jr., he rolls it and Buchecha smokes it. I'm only joking. I'm only joking. But I like that little bromance, and I do kind of like it, you know, when you have an organization like the PFL and they recognize one championship. And I liked it when the UFC recognized Bellator and they were talking about Michael Chandler. I do kind of like it when they kind of do recognize that there is good fighters in other organizations as well, rather than just being like rubbing over it and not mentioning anything that's happened before or happens elsewhere. But yeah, it was a fantastic performance. He was so happy on winning that $1 million. See Buchecha there with him. Fantastic. Yeah, they're good fight, but I just think it was one of those classic moments, and it reminded me a little bit of the early UFC days where you actually had a pure wrestler versus a pure Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. And we just found out what we learned back then is that if you haven't really got the jiu-jitsu game on the floor, when you wrestle someone and you take them down, you then enter the world of jiu-jitsu. And he had a little bit of a hold there in his game, Hamlet, but, you know, he's still fairly young for the weight class. He has a lot more opportunity, and I see him coming back and having another run at it. But I think Antonio Carlos Jr., I think, you know, I think this is the 5th fight we've gone through. I think Antonio Carlos Jr. and I think Movid, and Kayla, just because of their absolute dominance, are probably the guys who are definitely going to come back next year because, you know, they're going to be back looking for that $1 million. I think some of the other divisions are a little bit more open.
All right, and House Manfio, Chris, getting the lightweight championship. Decision again here against Loic Rajabov. Another great story here, House Manfio. I think he had a win over old Anthony Pettis, didn't he, in the group stage? Great story again, and another good fight. It was a really enjoyable show, wasn't it? But totally deserved, I think.
Oh yeah, totally deserved. I thought it was a fantastic performance. I think he definitely had the win. I thought he was dominant. I just show you, like, the PFL, they are really good at these signings, like Antonio Carlos Jr., like some of the guys they've signed from other organizations. You know, people forget, I think about 7 years ago, House Manfio was in The Ultimate Fighter in Brazil, and I think he lost the first fight, and 10, 11, 12 fights later, there he is winning $1 million. It's absolutely fantastic to him. And Loic Radzhabov also has looked fantastic the whole season. I thought going into it that this was going to be one of the fights to watch in the PFL, because when you've looked at their records, they're both going on with a lot of wins and very dominant wins. And we did get a pretty good back and forth, but we got a very clear and deserved winner.
Absolutely. And some nice words from one of our fans, one of our subscribers, Dorji, saying they're bummed that the December card for ONE FC is cancelled. They're pumped for a stacked UFC 267 and 268. Peace and love from India. Yes, peace and love from Hong Kong back at you. So you want to do any of this undercard here, Chris, or we'll just pick out a couple of things? Yeah.
Mariat Medamov, fantastic fight. Started off quite nice, some nice striking between the two of them, and then these two guys just decided to bang. Jordan Young catching Mariat Medov on the chin and sending him into next. I was going to say next week. I was going to say probably something straight to December. Can be having some mince pies by the fireplace. By the way, he got knocked out. But yeah, fantastic fight. Anyone who wants to watch it back, it is just absolute fun. A little bit of rock'em sock'em robots.
Yes, and Julio Bard, the new signing, getting a decision against Caitlin Young.
Very dominant win, but this really was just saying, welcome to the PFL. And this was pretty much just signaling to Kayla Harrison, we've got a live one here.
All right. And Don Madge getting second round submission against Nathan Williams.
Yeah, Don Madge, fantastic fighter. I want to say he was in Dana White's Contender series. Was it an eye poke or a groin kick? Something happened. He was then signed to the UFC, then later released because he had issues, I believe, with the quarantine situation and the travel situation with South Africa and variant. Got released from his contract. Maybe I think fought once or twice more down there in South Africa. I might be wrong. And then see him come over. And every time I've ever seen this guy fight some guy back in the day, Williams, I can't remember. And this guy is a fantastic fighter, absolutely jacked, absolutely stacked, and just absolute knockout power. And expect him next year. I'll say it now. I expect him to at the least make the finals.
Big
if not win the
prediction
whole thing. Yeah.
All right. Yes, you're right, Chris. Was in the UFC, couple of fights, couple of wins, but a few cancelled bouts. So, yeah, definitely a lot of potential there. Okay, that does it for PFL. And any questions, let us know before we jump on and talk a little bit about the UFC show coming up on Saturday night, Sunday, whatever. It's a pretty weird time. Here's a question quickly from Tan, and then I'll get to Gordon's one. Tan asking, what do you think about the Chinese fighters at the Contender series, and is that one really a girl? Well, look, I will say, let's talk about the fighters. Yes, I thought disappointing results, encouraging performance from Bin though, and that one could have gone either way. I think Bisping and Felder, was it Felder there as well? They had it for so I think, Bin, former one championship star, and a lot of potential there. But Chris, the bottom line is that's another 3 losses for the China Academy.
Yeah. I can't remember. I have it saved somewhere. I was trying to follow all the academy graduates. I think I had it at 4-11 before this. I agree. John KL, definitely get him out. No, keep him in. Give him a long contract. Keep him forever. No.
Zach Ollie is the message. Yes.
I think this is 4-14. I think it leaves them at. I may well be wrong, but it's not very good. Because you do look at it sometimes and you think China's put money into this. The Olympic Association over there in China have put money into this. It's got government subsidies. And you do look at sometimes and you think, look at when all the football teams were buying soccer players, football players from all over the world and bringing them to play in China. And, after about 7-8 years, the government just kind of decided against it. The league champions last year, Jiangsu Suning, they won the league, and 4 weeks later they shut down because it no longer carried political favor. And it does think that, China is a very proud nation, and I do feel if fighters aren't winning or they're not even getting a .500 record, there's only going to be so much they're going to take, right?
Yeah. Zhao Long as well, I think, looked decent in bits. Some potential there. 12-fight winning streak he had was snapped. But he was the I think the bantamweight champion in WLF, and was that and Yan as well was also a champ from WLF, women's flyweight, I think. She looked good until she got caught. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it.
A little bit tactical slip up. Silva just locked in that guillotine, and but it was enough there. And we got 3 more Chinese fighters next week.
Yeah,
I
that's
think if
what I
we
keep
get,
saying is I think really until we make any sort of conclusions on what has been happening at the Shanghai Academy and its level of performance, I think probably is there 2 more Dana White's Contender series left in this season?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, there's 2 more. I think we've got 3 Chinese fighters next week, and then is it 2 the week after?
I don't know. I didn't know if there were 2 more. I know there's 3 next week, but
Yeah.
they may have added more. I don't know. Yeah. Tan saying I didn't know they have an English head coach. Yeah, Dean Amersinger, right? He's
Yep.
down at the Shanghai PI. Yeah, a lot of people speak highly of him there, and I think I don't know much about him. I think we've had a couple of interviews with him on SCMP. We spoke to him before the Jacksonville card, UFC 261, when they had 3 academy graduates making their debuts on the undercard of that Zhang Wei Li fight. They all lost again. Yeah, it's been a tough year. I think Rong Ju probably looked the best out of them. He got a win back, didn't he? Last month, he got against Brandon Jenkins, I think, late replacement. It's not all doom and gloom, but the UFC is throwing him in at the deep end. That
Yeah,
seeing if they can
100%.
sink
And
or swim.
I think we do have to divide them into ones that are here for now and ones that are here for the future, right? Wrong Jew, 21 years old. I mean, 21 years old. I think he's had 21 fights. I think he's like 18-3. So it does give you an idea. But Wrong Jew is not for now. Wrong Jew is for 2027, 2028. This is when he's going to be headlining a UFC fight night in Beijing or a UFC fight night in Shanghai or Macau or maybe even Singapore or touchwood one day Hong Kong. So we can be there on the ground because we'll probably then still be in lockdown. It's the losses that I find generally disparaging with the Chinese fighters is when we have a guy coming over who's 29, 30, 31, and then they're losing 2 or 3 on a row. That's the problem because these guys are kind of expected to be going out there in is the UFC. You are kind of expected to maintain a 50% win ratio. I think next week is the last week of the Contender series. We've got 3 more Chinese fighters. I think they're definitely going to need a win. Otherwise, I do think some questions are going to start be getting asked, and I won't be surprised if we maybe see some change to the personnel over there.
Interesting.
Because if they go 0-6, there's something wrong, right?
Yeah, definitely. Dorji, I don't know if you've gone already. Just was saying, just before I leave, would love your quick take on Sandhagen versus Yan. Why don't we just hold that very briefly because we'll kick off our UFC 267 preview. I'll just get this question from Gordon very quickly. I keep thinking there must be somewhere other than Singapore that one could hold events. Thailand is opening up to vaccinated tourists on November 1st. Do you guys think there's any hope there?
I think that's a possibility. Thailand is a possibility. To tell you the truth, if you look at the level of openness in Asia, Thailand is far more open than probably Singapore is. Japan is probably far more open and going ahead with events than there is. There are probably better alternatives, but we do have to remember that the biggest shareholders in One Championship is the Singaporean government. So they hold a lot of clout around there, right?
All right, yeah. Please do remember, like and subscribe. Sorry, Chris.
Oh, yeah, absolutely no problem. And I was just going to say very quickly, just because we were talking about Dana White's Contender series, what did you think of the incident regarding
terrorist
Basharat and Kalon?
Javid Basharat. Yeah, when they called him a terrorist after failing to make weight.
It's not that's the issue. Did you see what Dana White had to say in his press conference?
Yeah. What did he say? Like, people say mean things. This is fighting, and we're not politically correct.
And he did say he doesn't need to do anything about it because justice was served in the ring, which I find very odd because he's kind of endorsing some form of like street justice vigilantism over like telling his people what they can and can't do. I mean, look, if it was the other way around and that Israeli guy, if he was fighting a neo-Nazi who said neo-Nazi stuff and did a Nazi salute, would that be okay? if someone
I
said,
don't know what Dana's breaking point is really, or you know
yeah,
what is offensive to
if someone
Dana.
said obviously offensive stuff to say a country that they have future aspirations in, say like China, would he be as open and be it's all about freedom of speech and personal choice if someone does that on their Jangwei Namajunas card and China decides to do what they did with the Boston Celtics and cut the feed and ban it for 3 months or something?
That's a very good point, Chris. And I
I'm
think
just
we know
saying,
the answers. Yeah.
yeah, but you can't be like it's all because like I understand a lot of people don't like political correctness gone mad, but some political correctness has done a lot to do with like racism and misogyny. Like, I think he's really kind of balancing a tightrope, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the other side of the argument, like Tan says here, is, I mean, how are we okay with people punching, kicking, knocking out each other, breaking arms and legs, but not okay with fighters saying mean things to each other? That's
Because
kind of what Dana was saying, right? But
my problem is the
there's a
Afghan
flip side.
fighter, by signing the contract, has agreed to be punched, kicked, have his arms and legs broken, as long as he's protected by the referee. He hasn't signed a contract to take borderline, well, yeah, race. I'm going to call it what it is. Racism. He has not signed a contract to be racially abused.
Yeah, that's the difference.
That's what I'm saying is in anyone else's line of work, if it the South China Morning Post, if you had an Afghanistani reporter and someone said what this Israeli fellow said, I think that person would be getting fired or heavily reprimanded. It wouldn't be allowed in any other line of work.
I mean, as horrible as it was, Javid Basharat looked very, very good.
He
looked
did
incredible.
look good,
and he got a great moment there, and a lot of people are now behind him, and I guess it's worked out well for him because a lot of people said that's bullshit.
100%.
And he's now got a bit of steam coming into the UFC, and it looks like he could be a real contender.
Connection. If I was him, I'd get in touch with Bilal Muhammad. I'd get on his podcast. And this is the thing, and the whole incident kicked off because they wouldn't shake hands, and the Afghan guy said, it's not because he's Israeli I didn't shake his hand, it's because he missed weight by 4 pounds.
Yeah, I think he could be an interesting character. And he's got a brother who is his coach as well, who's also 7-0.
Yeah.
A couple of prospects there. But yeah, sorry, let's go to I've lost my train of thought. All right, yeah, we'll do our UFC preview now, and if Dorji's still here, I guess we'll start with Sandhagen and Yan.
Oh, are we going to our UFC preview, or are we going to one championship preview?
I kind of did a one preview on Tuesday, and
yeah,
I think it's really a 2-fight card now. So I mean, we could do a quick preview tomorrow before the show starts.
Yeah, 100%.
Otherwise, we'll be here all day. It's a big weekend, everyone. For MMA.
I'll do it very quickly. Julie and Ritu.
Yeah, Chris's picks. All right. Yeah, we'll come join us tomorrow, guys. Tomorrow night for One Championship. Next Gen, we'll do a fight companion. We'll be here and hopefully bring you all the press conferences after. I don't know if they're going to do any. I haven't seen anything yet. They didn't do a media day for media. They just did one of their own ones with Chevello. If you want to see those interviews, they are on our YouTube channel. So take a peek after this. But yes, let's get to it. UFC 267. For Dorji's sake, if Dorji's still here, we'll go to Peter Yan and Corey Sandhagen, the co-main event for the UFC Interim Bantamweight Championship. No mercy against the Sandman. I'm very excited for this one, Chris. I think it could be fight. I mean, actually, that's a bold call to say Friday night. There's so many good fights, but definitely going to be on paper a thrilling fight.
Yeah, 100%. I think this is going to be back and forward. I think this is going to be absolutely unpredictable. I well and truly expect this to make it into the championship rounds. But you know what? I like to mess around with my picks before I officially make my picks live on here. And as I've gone through it and as I've ping-ponged back and forwards, I was going with Yan, but you know what? I have decided to switch it up. I think Corey Sandhagen is going to go out there, and I think he may well go out there and shock the world.
That's bold, cool. I think Peter Yan is just the truth. I think he is the best in the world, and he
problem.
knee hadn't happened, he'd still be the champ. We wouldn't be in this situation. I don't think Sterling was going to beat him, even if it went 5 rounds.
My only problem with Ania is I went back and watched some of his fights, and I was like, okay, his last few wins, he beat Jose Aldo, an old guy. He beat Uriah Faber, an old guy. He beat Jimmy Rivera, an old guy. He beat John Dodson, another old guy. Guys who've been there and done it, and that is something. But I just think that Corey Sandhagen has been beating his peers and his contemporaries, not the generation before him. And that's why I just expect it to come out, and I expect a shock. I think this is the only outsider I'm going with on the main card. And I just think Corey Sandhagen is going to go out there and he's going to shock the world.
All right. Well,
and he can rematch my man Aljo for the belt.
Yeah, I mean, either way, Chris, whoever wins, there are interesting rematch possibilities with Sterling, right? Because Sandhagen and Sterling ended very quickly, to the surprise of everyone, I think, before the first time. So I'm interested to see that fight, whoever wins, which is always good. But main event, the legendary Polish power, Jan Blachowicz himself against Glover Teixeira, the wily Brazilian veteran. Well, they're both veterans, but look how many fights combined they have. It's insane. Blachowicz, minus 290 favorite on Fanatics here. I have gone for Glover, though. I've kind of picked most of the underdogs on this card, you'll see, just for a laugh. But am I being stupid, Chris? Is there any way that Jan is not going to win?
I kind of think in this fight, I think the longer it goes on, I think the more of a chance Glover has. I think if Glover wins, man, he kind of elevates himself from a bit of a journeyman in a way. Not a journeyman, but a very elite level kind of gatekeeper kind of figure who's gone back and fought for a title, has a chance to win it maybe the second time over. There's very few people you can compare him to. I mean, look, if I'm Glover every day, I'll be looking at Michael Bisping. I'll be looking at the guy who always got close, never quite did it. And with one of his last fights, kind of got to turn it around. And I don't really see Glover going much past this, even if he were to win. And you do kind of look at him and you do think, wow, these two guys have a combined age of 79. So they're pretty old out there. And, 75 fights between them. I think Glover does have the wrestling, he does have everything to do it, but I just don't know if he can do it. I mean, he did do the rebuild of all rebuilds. I think there's no one who has come close in the UFC to ever coming back from the places that Glover's been. He was very lucky he wasn't really getting knocked out, and just to get back to this point, it's like climbing Mount Everest. But if he can reach the summit, I think it literally will guarantee him Hall of Fame, legendary status. And, whenever anyone's a little bit old and they come back for a title fight, everyone talks about Bisping. I feel if Glover wins, it's going to be Glover Teixeira they'll always talk about in this kind of situation. And then on the other hand, you start looking at it and you think, this is Jan's time really to kind of become a dominant champion now, because we had John Jones vacate the division. And then we had Jan versus Dominic Reyes. It was the right fight to make, and we had Jan win. And you had a lot of people saying, I don't think Jan's going to be champion for a long time. I was on this show saying, I don't think Jan is going to be champion for a year. I think the belt is going to be changing hands back and forward. I think it's going to be going to different people, because I thought there's a lot of top people in the division. Then if you start thinking for him to beat Reyes, who was the number one, had a very close loss to John Jones, to beat Adesanya in a fairly dominant fight, right? I think it was 4 very, very easy rounds scored to Jan Blachowicz. And then to have another defense against Glover Teixeira, and you think he's only really one defense away from winning a title and having 3 defenses, something that Bisping didn't do. There's hell of a load of great fighters. Conor McGregor didn't have 3 defenses. I think Khabib only had 3 defenses. So it does just show you. And, I was talking about Glover doing a great rebuild. You look at Jan Blachowicz starting his UFC career off 1-4. And what hell of a rebuild that was to come back from that point and still be the only man to be a world champion in KSW and UFC. But I just have a feeling that legendary that championship Polish power is just going to get Glover out in the fourth. And I do think it's time for Jan to change his nickname from the legendary Polish power to the championship Polish power.
And you've got the specter of Yuri Prohaska looming as well on Fight Island. Yuri is, he's making weight for this in case he's needed as a backup, but he doesn't expect that.
Yuri did say he would much rather fight Jan than Glover. And if you want to see that full interview, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe, because I believe that's from an interview on this fantastic YouTube channel on South China Morning Post MMA, Nick.
Yes, Andrew Whitelaw back with us with Yuri Prohaska. Spoke to him yesterday, I think it was. Go check that out. And Yuri had some cool stuff to say as always. Yes, and he is next in line, no doubt, to fight the winner of this. So yeah, I mean, I think Yuri is the future champ. Whoever wins this fight, that's a bit of a strange situation to be in. But I'm backing Yuri. Yeah, I'm on the Yuri train. Ride it till the wheels come off. Okay. Wow, what a card. I just keep forgetting all the fights on this. Islam Makhachev and Dan the Hangman Hooker lightweight fight, which could, potentially, if things play out a certain way, this could be the next title challenger. If Chandler beats Gaethje and then Oliveira beats Poirier, they probably don't want to do Poirier versus Chandler again very quickly. So, Islam or Dan could slide into a title fight quite quickly there.
Yeah.
But wow, Dan Hangman,
Islam,
look at those odds.
Is a fight away from the title. I think he'll have to beat Dan Hooker. That'll be a shot at a top 5 opponent as long as he avoids Benio Dariush. From there on in, I think he's going to be champion, and I think he's going to be champion for a long time. I think he will make more defenses of his belt than Khabib. So that will be very interesting going forward. I think this is a terrible matchup for Dan Hooker. I love Dan Hooker. I think he's so game. I think he's a great fighter, but heed the warnings of Donald Cerrone. You can't always be that fighter who's always game and always willing to go into wars and have those close moments, kind of similar to a Masvidal, because you're going to come out of it and it's not going to end very well, I think, in the long term. I'm not sure if this whole style of I'm going to fight anyone, anywhere, anytime is going to work out. There's very few fighters it does work out for. I'm just not sure if it's good for the longevity of Dan Hooker's career.
Well, man is taking a chance. He's taking a big payday, and there's always a puncher's chance, man. And if anyone's gonna catch Islam, it feels like Dan Hooker's the guy to do it for me. It's not gonna be. Yeah.
In this fight, the winner moves on forward. I have a sneaky suspicion the loser of this fight gets a Nate Diaz or a Tony Ferguson or someone like that, or a Conor McGregor.
Well, that's not a bad thing.
No, it's not bad at all. It's not bad at all.
Yeah, Dan. I think Dan is, he's doing the company a favor. No one wanted to fight Islam. They really wanted Islam on this card, obviously in Abu Dhabi, and he's getting well paid for it. And yeah, you're right, Chris. Even if he loses, I think he may get that red panty night, so to speak. So good on Dan. Always loved Dan. Very candid guy. Very funny guy. We have an interview with him on the channel as well from JHK. Go check that out. Very good stuff. The odds are not in his favor though. But I'm picking Dan, and so is JHK.
I'll tell you what. I think for those odds, I think it's a very, very good price for Dan Hooker.
It is.
I think it should be much closer than that. I think they're doing a slight disservice.
Yeah, I mean, John asked him about that, and he just said, "That's great. The boys are going to win some money." So
I think so. I think the bookies have just looked at his opponent's name, looked at the beard, and gone, "Let's put the odds to it." You know what I mean?
Yeah, little disrespectful to Dan, but he doesn't mind. Alex Volkov and Marcin Tybura, the heavyweights. Heavyweight fights always usually pretty fun, Chris. And Volkov lost to Cyril Gane, but no shame in that. We've seen Gane go on to pick up the interim title. What does a win here do for Volkov if he beats Tybura?
I just think it's just a win for him. Volkov's always been there around. I think he's still ranked in the top 50. And He's a top fighter. Marcin Tybura is always a bit of a tough one because when he has fought those top level guys, Timothy Johnson, Fabricio Verdum, Derek Lewis, Augusto Sagai, he's lost. And you look at his 3 recent wins, it's a wash them off well. Greg Hardy is not really a fighter, and Walt Harris, where it was one of those back and forward fights. Walt Harris is always a kind of back and forward fighter. I just think Volkov has a little bit more here and a little bit more going on. A much better ground game. He's proven himself to be a little bit less easily caught. I just think Volkov is a class above, and Marcin Tybura just can't ever really seem to do it against those guys with a number next to their name.
Yes. All right.
And it does show you how good of a card this is. You know, this card, Nick, has 11 ranked fighters on it.
Yeah, they've really stacked it, I think, because of Return to Fight Island. I think there are a lot of fighters who can only fight on these Fight Island cards. And, they want to stack it with the Dagestani guys and the Russian guys. Hasbullah is going to be in the corner of Islam Makhachev, forgot to mention.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, he's going to be not in the corner, but he's going to be supporting him there. I think he's definitely going to be at the show.
Oh, wow. That's good. I hope they've got a booster seat out there.
Yeah. This one I'm looking forward to. Li Jingliang, the Leech against Hamzat Kamaev. Fucking hell. There's so many things at play here, Chris. You got Hamzat, who's been out for so long. Like, he's one of the fastest rising stars in the UFC. He was breaking all these records, and then he got the COVID, and then suddenly, we haven't seen him for a year, and he was going to fight Leon Edwards. That kept getting scrapped. Finally, he's back. Fingers crossed. Is it going to be the same Hamzat, Chris? That's the question. And if you're not the same Hamzat, is the Leech the guy you want to fight?
I think Hamzat is a class above. I think he's going to be very dominant, and I think there's no part of Hamzat's game where the Leech is better than him.
Yeah, it's just
there's not one. I don't think his striking is as good. I don't think his wrestling is good. I don't think his sprawling is as good. I don't think his ground and pound is as good. I don't think his choice of submissions are as good. His jiu-jitsu I don't think is as good, and I think Leech is absolutely fantastic, but I honestly think Chimaev is something else. I think he's going to be a champion. I mean, as I keep saying, look at that surname, look at that, he's got the longest beard of them all. That probably means he's the best. I don't speak Dagestani, but if I did, that's probably something they say. I'm joking if I've offended anyone, but
well, he's minus 530.
What is your argument for why you
Swede.
think the Leech is going to win, Nick?
You see, the boys have all jumped on the Leech there, Drake, Nick, and JHK. I'm pretty sure Hamzat's going to win. I'm just trying to pick some of the underdogs here because there's some crazy odds on this card. But I also think there's question marks about Hamzat. We haven't seen him since he got COVID, and he struggled with it. He had long COVID. Is he the same fighter? That's what I want to know. We've seen some fighters have come back and they're not as good if they've had long-term symptoms.
I have been thinking a lot about this fight. I do think it's going to be much closer than people think, because I have been thinking whether I should, on the fantastic app Fanatics MMA, I've been thinking, should I triple down and should I go, because I fancy Hamzat and I fancy him to win and I fancy a fairly dominant win, but I think Leech is going to push him all the way and I think it's going to go to a decision.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be closer than people think, and I am very tempted to triple down on it, but you never know with Hamzat.
So if Hamzat wins as well, is it time to strap the rocket to him, and who would he match up with next?
Oh, you're really, really pushing him high.
Is he even ranked yet? Did they try and sneak him in the rankings before all of his?
He was ranked during the rankings, but I don't know if they did remove him. I will have a quick
He's not in it. Lee is 11th.
11th.
So that would put Hamzat maybe
Neo Magny. But
Yeah.
if you really want to get him over, Masvidal or Chiesa.
Jeez. Yeah. If I'm
Like
them,
you,
I was saying this. What's that? Sorry.
you do look and you look. Bilal Muhammad, Neo Magny,
Yeah.
Masvidal, Chiesa, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Vincente Luque. They're all very favorable matchups because of his wrestling. You do kind of think that, like, really maybe even Leon Edwards has pretty good takedown defense, but you really look and you think Chimaev can kind of skip a lot of those guys and really go to Leon Edwards, Gilbert Burns, or Colby Covington.
I want them. I said this before when he immediately debuted, and I hope they take it slow with him and just have him. If he is the truth, just have him pick off these guys one by one and have him fight 3-4 times a year. Just really build that hype the way McGregor was doing. On his rise up to featherweight, really get the hype behind him, and then if Usman is still hanging around in welterweight, that's the fight I think which defines Usman's legacy. Usman versus Khamzat Chimaev, but who knows? Usman might go up to middleweight if Adesanya vacates there. I don't think there's a clash of interest there now because I think Khamzat is no longer with Ali Abdelaziz. I think Ali moved him on after Khamzat kept calling out Habib, and things got a little heated there. So,
And he kept retiring.
Yeah. Anyway, let's keep going. There's a lot of fights, so we've got to get through some of these. Volkan Ozdemir is back, former title challenger, light heavyweight, against Magomed Ankalaev. Volkan coming off that scary knockout from Yuri Prochazka. The man has a lot of self-belief. I saw him fight in South Korea, and he beat Alexander Rakic.
Ozdemir is an absolute beast. Ankalaev is an absolute beast. This has fight of the night written all over it. I mean, look, you've got to have a lot of respect for Ozdemir. Came into the UFC and just kept winning, was undefeated. I think in his fourth fight, he went in to fight Cormier for the belt. Then you look at his fights after that. Anthony Smith, Dominic Reyes, Alexander Rakic, Yuri Prochazka. He has fought beast after beast after beast. And then he got Ankalaev. Yeah. There is no rest for the wicked in the UFC, and it does just prove it again. I think it's a tough out. Once again, I think it's going to be very, very close. But Ankalaev, man, as I keep saying, look at that surname. Look at the beard. I'm getting vibes. I do think it's going to be closer though. And you do know with Ozdemir that, like, if you can't put him away, he's just absolutely, totally game. But my issue here with this fight is you kind of saw the game plan that Ankalaev's going to follow. Ankalaev trains at AKA. The most dominant win over Ozdemir, apart from the knockout by Yuri Prochazka, was probably Cormier with the wrestling. I think we're going to see something very similar to Ankalaev. I think the formula's out there how to beat him.
Yeah, I kind of agree, but I'm picking him anyway. So you get some underdog points. All right, Amanda Ribas is back against Vina Jandiroba. Vina's on a little bit of a roll, isn't she, Chris? Ribas, got a little bit of a reality check, you want to say?
100%.
Yeah, when she got knocked out last time out. That was a funny one when Herb Dean kind of sort of made Marina Rodriguez finish her twice, but it was not a great showing for Ribas. But Marina Rodriguez is a beast. But can she get back on the right track here, Chris?
Yeah, I think I've Amanda Ribas to really edge a very close decision. I think it's going to be back and forward. Vina Jandiroba has come in. I think she's 32 years old, so not the oldest, but fairly old for the women's strawweight division. But she is just one of those people who's come up with all this experience from jungle fighting in Brazil, who has just come and shown her experience in every fight. I think in her last two fights, she was an underdog and she won them both. She has been overlooked. And I think this was a very, very tight decision for me. The main factor why I chose Amanda is just because some of the other people in our group are not big Amanda Ribas fans and find her a little bit of a bit annoying. So I decided to give a little bit of a middle finger to them. And I just love Amanda Hebus. I love her character. She's so bubbly, and she's been giving some awesome interviews about nothing to do with fighting, just about life, and I love it.
Okay, that is the featured prelim, I believe. There's a lot of other prelims, Chris. I don't think we've got enough time to go through them. So you just want to cherry pick anyone here people should be looking out for?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm just going to go almost all the way down. We're going to look at our guys from the UK. We're going to look at Laurel Murphy versus Ania, Connie. I think this is going to be a really good, fun fight. Ania, Connie has been fairly good since joining the UFC. He's had some very good wins. Most of his wins being Anaconda chokes, a little bit of a special move. And then all of his losses, all 4 losses he's had in the UFC have been decisions. 2 of those decisions have been split decisions. So it does show he's game. He doesn't get finished, and it is fun. And then you've got just the miracle himself, Laurel Murphy. He's one of the many Cage Warriors champions who came over, I believe, around the time of Fight Island. One of the British fighters I did tell people to keep an eye on. Some of them have fallen by the wayside. Some of them have continued and gone up and up and up. I think this is an absolutely fantastic opportunity for him to go and get the W out there, Laurel Murphy. I think he's going to probably get the knockout in the second round. And if I was him, I'd be calling out the winner of the Tukagov fight, because him and Tukagov, about 2 years ago, they had that draw. Go for the winner of that and rebuild yourself and keep climbing in this division, because Laurel Murphy certainly can go all the way.
Okay. Yeah, any other fights, Chris?
Well, there's one other fight, because what are we called, Nick?
We are the South China Morning Post.
Yes, and that is it. So we have a little bit of an odd one here, because we have Andrei Petrosky versus Hu Yaojong. Very good fight, very interesting fight. We haven't really seen anything good from Hu since joining the UFC. I mean, when was the last time we saw a fight, a 3-2 fight in the UFC? It's been quite a while. He was doing pretty good over in WLF, I believe, and Glory of Heroes. He got his 3 wins there. Came over in 2017, the same time we had Wang Guan also come over, who was doing absolutely fantastic stuff over in Kunlun. They were signed at the same time, and he went out there and he got choked out by Cyril Asker and lost to Rashad Coulter. And I just think I'm backing Hu, because we need the Chinese fights to stay in. They're not signing anyone from the Contender series until they start winning. But I just don't think you can be 3-3 and stay in the UFC. And I don't think you can have all 3 of your fights in the UFC be losses. So I think that's going to be a bit of a tough one, but hopefully he can pull through and prove me wrong.
Yeah. Look, plenty of other great fights here as well. And we just can't do them all. We're going to run out of time.
Remember, guys, 11 ranked fighters, plus as well some top prospects in people like Chimaev, Zaleski, Laurel Murphy. Some of these guys are going to be ranked in the future. So I think we are in for a good one.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to watch, Chris, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it kicks off at 10 p.m. Hong Kong time.
Oh, my God.
Is
Saturday
that the main
night.
card or the prelims?
Prelims 10:30 p.m. Saturday night. So main card starts 2 a.m. I don't know how I'm gonna handle this one. I might have to just wake up.
I'm gonna do prelims,
go to bed,
and then just watch the main card from about 7.
Yeah, and then maybe we'll do a little recap early morning.
Yeah, we will do a big recap. You know, we've got a lot of stuff coming out this week. We've got interviews left, right, and center. If you don't want to miss anything, remember to like and subscribe. We're very close to hitting that magic 21,000 subs. 21, that's the age you can drink in America. We might have a beer to celebrate. Who knows?
21 in 21 was the goal I set at the beginning of the year.
That's not going to happen now. Maybe Liverpool 21 and 23 is more of a possibility.
Oh my!
We've got a beautiful fight companion coming up on this Friday night for One Championship Next Gen. I think that's a 8 o'clock start now. I think it's been pushed back half an hour because the card's got a little bit shorter, but that should be a nice 3 hours or so.
Yep, always fun. The fight companion Leon will be there as well. I'm not sure about John. John's busy over in Thailand doing some stuff for the All Star. It's always a fun time though, and yes, other than that, yeah, Friday and then Sunday we'll be back.
Just say to anyone out there, oh yeah, it's a busy week. And if you want to win some merch, you know what? What you need to do is get onto the Fanatics app, join our group, because you know what? We are at the end of the month. It's a monthly giveaway. We've just had PFL, but you know what? If you can get your picks in for one championship on Friday night, and you can get your picks in for the UFC this weekend, if you can do very well on those two cards, you could be the winner. It's all possible.
Absolutely. Okay. What the hell? Wrap it up there. Let's do it. How's the rest of your Thursday look, Chris? I've got the day off as well, so normally it's your day off Thursday.
Yeah, that's it. So I've been doing a bit of work, been doing a bit of chores, a bit of housework, gonna run to the shops and do a little bit of shopping. But apart from that, it's free as a bird. I was thinking of going to the gym, but I'm unsure. And unfortunately, a bit early. It was a very bright, sunny day, but unfortunately, the grey clouds have rolled in.
Oh, really? Oh, jeez. Yeah, it was pretty warm earlier when I was out. Okay. Well, I'll see you tomorrow then, I guess.
100%.
The companion. And I'll see all of you watching, liking and subscribing. I'll see you there hopefully as well. Thank you as always. I hope you've enjoyed it. As Chris says, do like and subscribe. It helps us out. And we'll catch you all again tomorrow night, wherever you are in the world. I don't know what it's Friday night Asia. That's all I know. All right. Have a good one, everyone. See you.